This is Radio Health Journal. I'm Nancy Benson. This week, how childhood emotional trauma leads to poor health decades later.
The way in which the genes that oversee our proper stress response do not function properly for life.
How your biography becomes your biology when Radio Health Journal returns.
I'm Reed Pence, the producer and host of Radio Health Journal. If you like listening to Radio Health Journal, you'll also like our sister show, Viewpoints, which covers a wide array of topics from education to history to the environment. Here's a preview of what they're covering this week on Viewpoints.
My genetics showed a very high sort of association with violence, aggression, and low interpersonal empathy. And those two biological markers then set me on a quest.
Exploring what we do and don't understand about psychopaths. Then,
people think of a black hole as a very dense object, but a black hole is actually not an object at all. It's more like a place.
The fascinating science behind black holes. I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth this week on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.
Listen to Radio Health Journal and Viewpoints on your favorite radio station, and subscribe and listen anytime on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Also, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Radio Health Journal.
It's rare to go through childhood without any emotional trauma. Kids commonly have to face the death of a grandparent or move to another town. But many children grow up with far more adversity. And researchers now realize that the emotional wreckage of childhood can have profound consequences. Award-winning science journalist Donna Jackson Nakazawa says that's prompted the development of what's called the Adverse Childhood Experiences, or ACE survey.
They looked at whether or not an individual had grown up with a caregiver or a parent or someone in the household who was depressed or suffered from a mental illness, whether there was an adult in the household who suffered from alcoholism or an addiction, whether a parent was lost through divorce or separation or other reasons, whether a child often experienced being put down or insulted or humiliated in their home, or even simple emotional neglect, such as feeling that no one thought that they were important or special, or that the family didn't look out for each other, and physical neglect. For instance, no one took you to the doctor when you were sick. So they were really extending our understanding of trauma.
Nakazawa is the author of Childhood Disrupted: How Your Biography Becomes Your Biology and How You Can Heal. She says once researchers started asking people those questions, they found that emotional trauma before age 18 is a lot more common than they thought.
64% of Americans have experienced at least one of these adverse childhood experiences, and 40% had experienced two or more.
That's striking enough. It helps explain why there's so much depression, anxiety, and other mental illness linked to childhood trauma. But researchers found much more in a groundbreaking 1998 study. The amount of adverse childhood experiences people had suffered strongly correlated to their physical diseases as adults.
The higher one's ACE score for adverse childhood experiences, the more categories of adverse childhood experiences that one had experienced, could largely predict how much medical care an individual would need as an adult. So the statistics are pretty staggering. One's chances of having cancer or heart disease rise dramatically with an ACE score of 4. And pretty shockingly, for each ACE score a woman had, her chance of being hospitalized with an autoimmune disease in adulthood rose by 20%. Similar links have been found to pretty much every chronic disease.
From stomach problems to cancer, the risk of just about every disease was much higher the more abuse, neglect, or abandonment a person had suffered as a child. But nowhere is it worse than with autoimmune diseases, where the body's immune system attacks itself.
We're talking about diseases like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, thyroiditis, and about 110 other autoimmune disorders, which strike women about 9 times more than men.
So what's going on? It all relates to the body's response to stress. Nakazawa says scientists have found that we can handle ongoing stress if it's predictable.
So, for instance, an animal gets a shot on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. That over time, that animal adjusts, their brain adjusts to this predictable stressor.
But stress that's unpredictable makes the immune system overload.
If you do things that are kind of less awful than giving a shot once a week, and you just leave some water in the cage so that the cage is damp and wet, but you do it unpredictably, or you shake the cage, or you turn lights on and off at unpredictable times, well, the brain has to stay on alert. The brain doesn't know when the next unpredictable discomfort, or in the case of children experiencing these unpredictable stressors at the hands of caregivers, when the next moment where they will not feel safe is coming. And that causes changes in the way the genes express themselves, so that the way in which the genes that oversee our proper stress response do not function properly for life.
The end result of that is simple. A child's fight or flight system is always on red alert.
The stress system, which is supposed to turn on when we're stressed and turn off when a stressor is passed, in children who are facing chronic, unpredictable toxic stressors, that response is turned on all the time. They don't know when the next stressor is coming. That's the kind of chronic, unpredictable stress that causes the brain to be on high alert all the time, which causes the immune system to pump out high levels of pro-inflammatory hormones and chemicals that begin to do damage to the body. The relationship to autoimmune disease is very acute.
So if a child never knows when she's going to be humiliated again, or when her father will strike her mother again, or when she simply feels abandoned because a parent is absent, the body's stress chemicals will be constantly ramped up. As Nakazawa has noted, subsequent diseases affect women much more strongly than men.
When we're under a great deal of stress for a long period of time, estrogen is high, which creates more antibodies, which also creates more autoantibodies, which are those rogue antibodies that begin to attack the body in autoimmune disease. That friendly fire that we talk about with autoimmune disease, that's caused by these rogue antibodies. So estrogen is upping our levels of antibodies, giving us a more immune response, but it's also upping our level of rogue antibodies. So we see as girls begin to go through puberty and develop over the lifespan these much higher rates of autoimmune disease.
But it doesn't end there. New studies in the journal The Lancet show that adversity in childhood also increases the risk of premature death in early adulthood due to suicide and accidents. So while it's not true that what doesn't kill you makes it stronger, it's never too late to get back to being the person you're supposed to be. You can find out more about the book Childhood Disrupted on the author's website, DonnaJacksonNakazawa.com, or through a link on our website, radiohealthjournal.org. Our studio producer is Jason Dickey. I'm Nancy Benson.
Radio Health Journal returns in just a moment.
A good night's sleep means everything no matter where you are. Luckily, there's a CPAP machine for home and away. The Philips DreamStation Go offers the best of both worlds, a lightweight and discreet travel CPAP designed for everyday use that can be carried wherever you go. Dr. Mark Aloya is Global Lead for Behavior Change at Philips Healthcare.
Most people don't realize that missing just one night of CPAP therapy, which happens often when we travel for business or for pleasure, can put you right back to square one. Now there are more options than ever for CPAP therapy with the recent introduction of travel-sized CPAP devices like the Philips DreamStation Go.
Whether you're at home sleeping soundly or chasing a new adventure on the road, the Philips DreamStation Go is the everyday travel CPAP you want by your bedside. Find out more at philips.com/DreamStationGo. That's PHILIPS.com/DreamStationGo.
This report is brought to you by Bristol Myers Squibb. Despite being the second most common blood cancer, responsible for nearly 13,000 American deaths annually, multiple myeloma is considered a rare disease. Multiple myeloma develops in the bone marrow where normal blood cells grow and plasma cells are made to help fight infection. It crowds these cells and produces an abnormal antibody known as M protein, which can cause tumors, impair the immune system, and more. Multiple myeloma is a relapsing, remitting cancer, meaning the disease is likely to return even if a patient had initially responded to therapy. Each patient's treatment journey is unique. With early diagnosis and various classes of treatments available today, multiple myeloma can be manageable for many patients. Victoria Akins has been living with the disease since 2014.
I tried to be tough when my multiple myeloma started to take a physical toll, but it was hard to accept my new limitations after being so independent and active all my life. I am, though, grateful I received an early diagnosis and that my care team really helped me manage my symptoms. I know that while multiple myeloma is a chronic disease, there are treatment options every step of the way, and I have a great team to guide me. I am glad my life is getting back to a routine that I'm more familiar with.
Multiple myeloma can impair immune function, so it's important to note the potential risk of COVID-19 and stay safe. To learn more, visit myelomacentral.com.
You decided to upgrade your outdoor deck, so you ordered the essentials: a power washer, a set of patio chairs, and a shiny new grill. And you use your Bank of America Cash Rewards credit card, choosing to earn 3% cash back on online shopping and up to 5.25% as a Preferred Rewards member, which you put towards your most essential deck addition, a bird feeder. Apply for yours at bankofamerica.com/more-rewarding. Copyright 2020 Bank of America Corporation.
And that's Radio Health Journal for this week. Radio Health Journal is a production of MediaTrax Communications. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more. And check Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify for a library of past programs. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and information about our guests at radiohealthjournal.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Radio Health Journal.
Coming up next week on Radio Health Journal.
It's a very sensitive sensing technology that makes the road into a touchpad, much like you would have on your laptop.
Smart roads, amazing technology that will speed your morning commute and make it much safer.
Then getting neglected communities to believe in the COVID-19 vaccine.
The trust that has to be built among the Black community has to be built not just through a few people, but through a governmental system.
All that and more on Radio Health Journal.